Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. It's Grace, and today I'm going to be talking about all of the stuff that I read in the month of September. So September was a jump up from August, because in August I only managed to finish 2 books, but September was still a little bit of a lighter reading month. I finished 4 books / like 4.5. And I'm still pretty happy with that because, as some of you know, I did defend my thesis near the end of September and I was successful in my thesis exam. So I'm very happy about that, but I did devote a lot of my time to that and also to like applying for jobs and things like that because I am on the job search. So overall, I was happy with like my accomplishments. And within those 4.5 books that I read, there was some really high quality as well. So in that sense, also, I was very happy with my reading month. So in total, the books that I read totaled out to about 2,300 pages, and that's including the book that I did not finish, but I had about 600 pages finished by the end of the month, so I am putting that in there as well. And that's a little bit less than average for me, but that's still like very decent, and I am happy with it. And then, like I mentioned, quality was quite good. So in terms of rating, I had 1 3-star, 1 4-star, and 2 5-star reads out of the 4 books for this month. And then of course the book that I'm not quite finished with, I don't have a rating for yet. So I'm gonna start at the bottom, so to speak, and the book that I gave 3 stars to this month was Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. So I was lucky enough to get an electronic ARC of that book, and I do have a dedicated review for it that I will link up in the cards. And this was, I explain a lot of my in-depth, spoiler-free thoughts in that review, so if you're interested in in-depth thoughts, definitely check that out. But I think that on the whole, this book just didn't connect with me. It's not that I didn't enjoy it, it was just a very casual enjoyment for me. Like, I don't have negative thoughts necessarily, it's just that in terms of comparing Under the Whispering Door to House in the Cerulean Sea, House in the Cerulean Sea hit so well for me, and Under the Whispering Door just didn't hit for me in the same way. I think that perhaps it was because of the tone, and I have called, like, everybody calls it this, but I, along with everyone else, have called The House in the Cerulean Sea sort of like a hug in a book, and that was what I needed at the time. I really enjoyed it and I loved it, whereas Under the Whispering Door is more adult and definitely tries to deal with more serious subject matter in terms of like grief and loss and death, and it really dives into those. And while I liked the discussion that it did with that, some of it was a little bit on the nose for me, and I think that personally TJ Klune's storytelling style and writing just didn't fit for me with that type of subject matter, whereas it really did fit with the more like childlike wonder and really wholesomeness of House in the Cerulean Sea, if that makes sense. So 3 stars obviously isn't like a negative rating, but I didn't like it as much as I had hoped to. Next, I will move on to my 4-star read for the month, and that was The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. And this is sort of like a high 4-star, if that makes sense. I know that you would be like, Grace, that's a 4.5. But it wasn't quite a 4.5, it was just a high 4-star. So sorry for being that way, but I really, really did enjoy The Blade Itself. I have been waiting so long to get into the world of Joe Abercrombie, and I'm really happy that I finally did it. I do have a pretty detailed review for this on Goodreads that I will link in my description if you're interested in reading that. But my thoughts align with a lot of what I've heard about the book. Like, the characters were definitely standouts. I was very surprised by how much I enjoyed following Giselle, because I get what people say about him in the sense that like he is insufferable, but he's also entertaining. Like, he's an entertaining character to be in the mind of and follow him, even if it's because you're rolling your eyes at him. Like, he's still engaging. So there's a distinction to be made there. Whereas I really enjoyed the character of Logan, and I also really enjoyed the character of Glokta, even though he's a little bit unsettling. It's crazy how well you can understand his inner monologue and his inner thoughts and connect with him. And that is pretty unsurprising. Like, that's not to say that I'm not giving Joe Abercrombie due credit, because, like, yeah, his characters are fantastic, and I definitely agree with the people who say that. But then on the flip side, it's like, yeah, that wasn't shocking, because that is what everyone says about his books. So in that sense, I was like, yeah, this is really great. This kind of like meets my expectations. And there were some plot threads, but like they started to like swirl around each other as though they wanted to come together near the end. And I'm intrigued by the magic that we're being introduced to, and I'm intrigued by a lot of like the war that's being set up, and like the setting the stage for like conflict between two countries, or I guess one of them is kind of not really a country, but the political system honestly kind of confuses me. And this might be because I read the first like 85 pages of this book, and then I had to set it aside, and then I came back to it. So I didn't have a lot of trouble picking back up where I left off with a lot of things, but I'm wondering if perhaps I'm just not remembering some of the nuances and some of the like position title descriptions that were given to me in the first 85 pages of the book. So on the whole, I don't think I had trouble following the plot threads, but some of the names, or not the names of people, but the names of titles in the government did confuse me a little bit, but I think I kind of have a handle on it. And in that sense, like, some of the plot threads were a little confusing to me. Like, Glokta would realize something, he would realize the significance of something, and I would not understand where he was getting that from. But I do think there are some things that as the reader you're not quite supposed to know, so I feel like it did strike that balance well. Overall, I really enjoyed the book, and I am looking forward to continuing with the series, and I'm just really happy that I'm finally in the first law world. There were a lot of things that I really enjoyed just about like the structure of the book itself. Like, I really liked his prose. It flowed well for me. He does really well at writing humor, and yeah, it was just enjoyable. So a very solid, very like on the high side 4-star read for me for The Blade itself. And in terms of 5 stars, I actually am realizing how many videos that I have made on the books that I've read this month, aside from The Blade itself. But my first 5-star read was Fireborn by Rosaria Munda, and this was in my 5-star predictions. So I did just post a video that was episode 1 of reading my 5-star predictions, and that concerns this book, because this I had a whole list. I will link both videos in the description, the episode 1 video about Fireborn, but also my original 5-star predictions video that has the list of books that I actually predicted to be 5 stars. So this was just the first one out of them that I actually got to, and yeah, I really liked it. My favorite part about this book was the political discussions and the political system that, and in addition to that, the fact that there were ideological conversations coming out of the way that the politics are set up in this world, because it is a post-revolution setup where this there used to be this governing class of dragon riders, but it was very much a classical setup where it was like your bloodline is important. You're born into one of these families, you are the elite of society, you stay up here. There are peasants that stay down there. I'm assuming there was like a merchant middle class of some sort, but it's very much like a monarchy style, like there are people at the top, and then there's a revolution that happens, and we are looking at post-revolution and the fact that now there's a system in place where the dragon riders are still very high up in society, but there is a system where anyone can test into that class of society. So it's set up in a very interesting way. It produces a lot of questions about the merits of this system and how you're valuing people, because although you're not like entrenching them in the situation that they're born into like the old system did, you are valuing them based on like their intelligence or their performance on a test, where you will then rank them in what is essentially still a caste system. So there's a lot to be said for this, and I also really liked the two main characters, but again, I do have a dedicated video for this, so if you want even more of my in-depth thoughts and whether you should pick this one up, I will also link that up in the cards as well. Then my second 5-star read of the month and my favorite book of the month was An Autumn Moor, the third book in the Long Price Quartet. So yeah, I'm almost done this series, so I'll almost be done holding up this big boy in videos, but I read An Autumn Moor in the month of September. I buddy read it with Ben from Overly Average Ben and another Ben who doesn't have a channel but is very active on Discord, especially Ben's Discord. See, Ben from Overly Average Ben and I actually did an in-depth discussion on An Autumn Moor and our thoughts on it. We start spoiler free and then we get into spoilers, and so that is going to be the next video that I post right after this video goes up. So if you have read the Long Price Quartet and you are interested in hearing mine and Ben's thoughts on An Autumn Moor, please check that video out. I will tell you spoilers. We both absolutely loved the book. Seriously, it was so good. I don't even know, like, I don't want to start talking about it right now, because if I do, this video is going to end up being like half an hour long because I have so much to say. But there is so much, like, the things that I still love, like Daniel Abraham's prose and the way that he builds characters and like his immersive setting the scene, all of that is still present, but this has been my favorite plot so far, and we get like the world expanding, we get other perspectives that we didn't have before, and it is just so good. So that was the easiest 5 stars that I have given out, well, this month, but like in a while. I loved it so much. So yeah, please check out that discussion video that I'm gonna have going up soon. If you are watching this like a few days after I've posted it and my other video is up, I will leave a link to that other video in the description of this video for the Autumn Moor chat. So you know, if you're watching this right away, I'm sorry, I still need to edit that video because it's like probably going to be 45 minutes long, and I just haven't had the time to edit it yet, but it'll be coming and I'm very excited about it. So it was a great discussion. So that actually wraps up the books that I finished in the month of September, but the other one that I want to acknowledge is the biggest book in my life right now. This book is the same size, like Lord of Chaos is the same size as all 4 books in the Long Price Quartet. I'm really enjoying this, but I feel like I have been reading this book for ages. Like, I feel like I've been reading this book for about 3 weeks, and like at the moment that I'm recording this, it's October 5th, so I have like less than 100 pages left, and I'm hopefully going to finish this today. But the reason that I'm putting this in my September wrap-up is because I was through about 600 pages, or about 2/3 of this book, like when the month ended. So I thought that I would at least acknowledge it, because like, not as an excuse for why I didn't finish a 5th book in the month of September, but also just to say that like my final 10 days or so of September were spent basically reading Lord of Chaos while I was doing my thesis defense exam, and then celebrating from my thesis defense exam, seeing friends and things like that. And I was also reading that in the meantime. So that did take up a significant amount of time in my September, which is basically my point. But as with I have had for every Wheel of Time book so far. When I finish Lord of Chaos, I will be preparing and filming a spoiler chat for that book. Like I said, I am really enjoying it to this point, but I have a feeling that the ending of this book is going to be absolutely insane and the final 100 pages are just going to explode. And I'm really looking forward to it because there has been a lot that has happened so far. Not necessarily complaining about the length of this book, because I do get why things have been happening at the pace that they're happening with. I don't really have a problem with the pacing, but man, is it a long book. So I am looking forward to finishing that. And that will actually do it for my September 2021 wrap up. Again, super great reading month for quality, and there's a lot of I'm happy that I'm starting The Blade itself, or I'm happy that I'm starting the First Law series. I'm happy that I've continued with The Long Price Quartet, which I'm going to finish this month. I feel like I'm making progress. I'm making progress in the Wheel of Time. So, I'm very happy with myself, and I would love it if you guys would let me know your thoughts on these books in the comments. And if you've read any of them, or if you're planning to read any of them, come talk to me about it. So, if you liked the video, subscribe if you want to see more content from me. That is it for this one, and I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye!